Welcome back to Reimagine 2020. I'm Yonah Hochhauser, and today I'm glad to be joined by Nimrod Lehavi, CEO and founder at Simplex. Nimrod, thanks so much for joining us.
Always happy to.
Well, it's always a pleasure for me to speak to you as well. And for those who didn't get to catch our first interview, you want to give just a quick rundown of who you are and how you got into blockchain?
Sure. I'll try to make it quick, but no promises made.
You can make it long. Go for it. This is your platform.
Sure. So I'm Nimrod. I got into crypto kind of by accident around 2011, 2012. Just bumped into the white paper, really wanted to do something in, again, then it was only Bitcoin in the Bitcoin space, kind of an alternative financial system with all the opportunities that are hidden within it. I think that finally now, with the big news with PayPal, I think that finally the world is catching up with the idea that there's an actual change in financial systems here. And I started Simplex with my partners started working in 2013, founded it officially in 2014. We are here to enable easy access on-ramps and off-ramps to everyone. So enabling anyone to buy any crypto anywhere with any method they want to. We are doing credit card processing globally, heavy on Visa and MasterCard, but we're adding also JCB and Union Pay and the Russian Mir in a few weeks. We are enabling both users and corporations to open bank accounts through us. So they have their own IBAN, which is completely interactive with crypto. So you're able to both buy and sell from the account directly. And the whole thing is provided as a full suite of services to exchanges, wallets, whatever outlets there are there. Working currently with something like 250 partners in the crypto system.
Mm-hmm. That was good. And I think that it is so important to speak to someone like you and the work that you guys are doing, because as this industry matures and a lot of the pain points and the friction points in the ecosystem have been kind of ironed out in the past 11 years or so that Bitcoin's been around, it's mostly been the on-chain stuff, and still a big issue is that on-ramp, off-ramp situation of people, wanting to either sell their crypto or buy crypto. That has historically the traditional markets, the traditional banking system has really fought back and given major problems. I know for me, I live in Israel, you live in Israel, it's a big issue here, but worldwide, there's just a lot of places you live where it's just a pain in the ass. A tax headache, and some places just you can't actually do that. So I do think it's really important the work you guys are doing, and at Simplex, that's the company that you run. And so you mentioned this idea of you work with Visa and MasterCard, and this idea of credit cards, buying crypto with credit cards. But you guys actually are working on Visa debit cards as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just been approved by Visa as a principal member. So now we're able to basically enable all of our partners to issue debit cards to the users. Right now, it's still limited to Europe, but that's going to change and open globally as well. But everybody who's working with us is able to issue their users a Visa debit card, which is connected to the bank account that they open. That's again, working seamlessly with the crypto ecosystem, fiat ecosystem side by side. You're able to sell crypto directly to your bank account and then use the debit card directly based on that, branded as the partner wants. So I think, again, I think that it's inevitable. I think that on-ramps are more important because for the crypto ecosystem to become a really useful financial sub-ecosystem, it has to be in the trillions of dollars value, tens of trillions, hundreds of trillions. We can discuss that, but anyhow, in trillions. Right now, it's like 500 billion. So for the ecosystem to substantially grow, I think that on-ramps are crucial. Naturally, off-ramps are kind of, keeps you all warm and fuzzy inside to know that you're able to off-ramp for you to on-ramp. So I think it's crucial. I don't think that it's going to drive the same volumes, but I do think that it's very interesting, especially for, retail users.
Mm-hmm. And what took so long, and why did Visa give in finally? Were they worried up until now about the lack of regulatory clarity? Was it just too big of a financial risk for them? What was the kind of barrier that fell, that then now they're like, okay, cool, Simplex, you're a partner, and that essentially enables so many of these crypto companies to directly allow their customers a debit card?
I think to a certain extent, they just, they are, I wouldn't say bullish on crypto, but they're more accepting the fact that it's going to happen and they want to take part of it. They have been fast tracking a few other smaller companies, but I think we're among the very few that are actually a principal member. And again, we have a long-lasting relationship with them. They see us processing with them for 7 years almost. They see the history, they see the reputation we have in the market and in general processing, because basically we're doing the impossible. We are the core of the service is providing risk-free processing for the merchant. So today when you're making a purchase with a credit card, you can call the credit card company and say, hey, it wasn't me, and you get your money back. So if I sold you Bitcoin and you called your credit card company and performed the chargeback, I'm screwed because I already sent you the Bitcoin. So we're protecting all of our partners, so they are always held whole. They are never in loss because of such a chargeback. And this is the riskiest possible vertical to provide this service, and we're doing it very successfully for years. So it's creating a good enough reputation. So I think that had a lot to do with that. On top of that, we're a very regulated company. We're fully licensed in the EU. We're working on our licenses in the US to be able to provide the same licenses to US citizens as well. So I think it's it's a long and steady process, but it's definitely worth the while.
And you mentioned that it's really is all predicated and all built upon this kind of risk management, where you guys are able to kind of lower the risk or minimize the risk as much as possible that there will be chargebacks here.
Yeah.
And how is that done? Is that just matching, comparing every transaction to tons of other similar transactions that went through? How do you guys actually do that?
It's basically, I think this was like the foot in the door for the ecosystem. When we started, nobody was processing credit cards, let alone fraud-free. Now I think that we provide a much higher value just because we incorporate so many solutions within. So we're not just processing credit cards, we're also enabling you to do SEPA, SWIFT in a couple of weeks as well. So global wire transfers, you're able to use all kinds of alternative payment methods like UnionPay, JCB, Mir, and we're constantly adding. We have support for tons of cryptocurrencies. We have support for tons of local fiat currencies. We're continuously expanding the the service. So it's basically a one-stop shop for fiat crypto interoperability. The fraud part is super important and is being facilitated, throughout the platform to keep everybody playing nicely, so to speak. It's basically, it's a data game. We just collected enough data about each transaction. We're able to control and change the flow according to the risk profiling. We're able to understand the flow for the user and understand if it's risky or not. So basically something like that. Again, I don't want to get into too many details. Yeah. You can imagine what's going on.
Yeah. Don't sell the secret sauce, the recipe to the secret sauce. Now it's interesting because you mentioned IBAN numbers and SWIFT banking. I mean, these have historically been separated from the crypto ecosystem. It was kind of like, you had your Bitcoin, you want to sell it somewhere else. You had to, contact someone, meet him in a shady alley, and hope that he didn't rob you blind. But that really does add shows maturity of the ecosystem and really adds a tremendous value once you're actually able to connect the crypto ecosystem, which is really gaining value every day. I mean, Bitcoin dropped a little bit today, but we'll talk about that. But connecting it with the traditional financial rails. I mean, the SWIFT system, that's how international banking gets done. So how are you guys able to accomplish that? Is it that you got yourselves recognized just as a traditional bank, and so in the eyes of SWIFT, it's just a traditional transfer, or SWIFT is actually saying, we recognize it's crypto and we're okay with it?
So I think that I don't think that it shows that that the ecosystem matured, because had it matured, it would have been simple. So it hasn't matured enough. It's still very complex to.
You're making it simple.
Yeah,
It might not be simple for you, but you're making it simple for us.
That's the tagline, it used to be complex, now it's simplex. So I think that the fact that it's possible is due to our, very strong reputation in the ecosystem, to our ability to perform these transactions risk-free. I think it's I think it's crucial for the ecosystem to advance. I think that the first step of enabling users to easily interact with the banking system, I think it's huge. I think it's phenomenal. The reason we started Simplex in the first place was that it was so hard for me to buy Bitcoin. It was crazy. It was like, I didn't even have so many people to meet here, so much as people were asking me to wire them money and they'll meet me later with, yeah, right. Wasn't born yesterday, so I didn't do that. But now you can instantly, and again, throughout our partners network, with every one of them that actually launched this feature, you're able to open a bank account and directly sell crypto, get euros in your bank account within seconds, or buy crypto from the bank account within seconds. I think it's immense. And since it's an IBAN on your name, IBAN stands for International Bank Account Number. So it's an international bank account number. It's a bank account that belongs to you, 100% functional bank account with your name on it. So you're able to wire money from that account to your regular account if you want. It's much easier than getting a wire transfer from an exchange, for example. And it's something that I think everybody were waiting for. They maybe they don't even know that they were waiting for. But the fact is that I think that we're just seeing the transition. That it used to be an ecosystem of you have to choose between a landline and a Nokia phone, and now it's starting to transition towards, are you choosing between iPhone and Android? And I think that kind of encapsulates the where we are right now. And but again, I mean, we're still very, very early on in the ecosystem. Basically, hardly anything changed in the last decade. So I think we're just now starting to understand that the hockey stick is coming soon.
And it's interesting because when we're looking at the financial products that are offered on the blockchain, it's been kind of a closed ecosystem. It's there's insurance against smart contracts, and there's lending on the blockchain. But now slowly, as crypto integrates itself and communicates more directly with the traditional financial system, can you see new products being built that actually talk with each other, like interact with the traditional world? So will we be able to see, I don't know, an insurance product that's on the blockchain but insuring against a traditional bank account, or vice versa, or things of that nature? Are we slowly moving to that world where it's no longer segregated?
I don't think that we're going there yet. I think that right now it's there's a huge gap between the amazing technologies being introduced in the very advanced user base in crypto, like DeFi, which I think we talked about quite a lot last time.
Yeah.
And the other side, which is completely basic, it's like just buy Bitcoin. That's it. Like don't lose the keys, because the stupid factor is still the biggest issue. I mean, wallets are not yet friendly enough for users to understand. It's still like it's this time of the of the cycle where all your high school friends all of a sudden remember you exist and you're doing something in crypto. So they give you a call to ask how and where to buy. I mean, it's far from being simple. I think that the fact that you're able to do that through the bank account is making it simple, because you no longer need to explain them how to buy, where to buy, how to hold it, how to store it, and all that. I do think that the lending segment in the crypto ecosystem is going to be very interesting for mainstream users in the coming year. I think that the fact that you are, the zero interest markets and the potential global recession, in fact, you're getting nothing for your money in the bank if you're, converted to USDT easily, and you're getting like 5 to 10%. that's going to be interesting for everyone.
Yeah, for sure. Especially now, when in the traditional world, interest rates are nothing. They're negative or they're nothing. And I mean, good for us that we know that we have access and we know, like, it's crazy. There really are. I mean, it's 95% of the, whatever the number is, that just doesn't even know. They might have heard of Bitcoin, but they have no idea what's available in terms of it's a very inefficient market and it's a volatile market, which means there's money to be made. There's interest to be made. And I kind of wish that they don't realize that. Let me take advantage. Let me accumulate a little bit more before it goes mainstream.
You can. It's going to take a long time still. I mean, there's still a lot of fear and a lot of lack of understanding with regards to where it's going. What's the possibilities? Again, think about, I think like the derivative market is like $600 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
And think how many people understand that market? Not that many. Yeah. So, we can find ourselves in such an ecosystem in a few years. It's still going to take time. It's still going to take a lot of regulation and a lot of money flowing in. But I think that the PayPal move in that sense is amazing. Mm-hmm. I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, a lot of people are attributing the recent big bull run to that PayPal acceptance and use of Bitcoin or crypto, a couple of cryptocurrencies they accept. But I mean, I think it was more of a marketing, more of a branding for Bitcoin, acceptance, mainstream Bitcoin, that they're allowing the exposure to Bitcoin, but you're not actually holding your keys. You're not actually trading the actual Bitcoin. And so it really did great. And a lot of people are saying that PayPal really increased the demand for Bitcoin because they had to buy the Bitcoin on the back end for the users. But I kind of feel like they're providing the same service that you're doing, except you're doing it for real. You're allowing that you're actually allowing the off ramp and on ramp of the crypto Bitcoin, where it's like an ETF. They're just allowing exposure to the crypto.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. I think that's why, like, some people ask me if I'm not like disturbed that PayPal is competing with us. They're totally not competing with us. They're competing with Robinhood.
Yeah.
Basically, because you're buying exposure to the currency without having any control of the currency, but it's still something that brings exposure to the term Bitcoin to hundreds of millions of users. Yeah. And if they need to increase their, if there is exposure and PayPal as a company need to buy Bitcoin, reducing supply, that creates, a pressure on the demand. So, I think it definitely had a lot to do with the run. And also the fact that it's becoming gradually mainstream. A big public global payment company is putting that on, next to their name in a PR. I think it's substantial for the ecosystem. And again, I don't see them as competition at all. And I think that, them expanding the market 100-fold is totally worth the, I don't think they're going to take one user away from us. Mm-hmm. So for us, it's easy. Yeah.
But do you see this kind of as a first step for them? Because this is, I guess, it'd be a bigger leap if they were to fully jump into it. Can you see that this is kind of the first step? They're taking it slow. They said already in 2021 they're going to start offering this to their Venmo customers as well. Which, for those international viewers here, Venmo is the phone payment app, the mobile payment app that's most popular in America right now. So they're going to add that. They're also going to add it to the international customers as well. So this will grow. But I mean, eventually you have to imagine they'll get to the point where they're going to flip that switch and actually be allowing the actual, instead of exposure to the Bitcoin, but actually, because I mean, even if I buy Bitcoin on Binance, I don't actually own the keys. It's only when I take it off the exchange. So I could see the same thing happening with PayPal, where they essentially play the role of a centralized exchange, where you buy the exposure to the crypto when it's on PayPal, but when once they allow the withdrawal of crypto, that really changes the game. Do you see that happening in the near future? And at that point, would you consider them be competing against you?
I don't think it's going to happen in the near future because they have too much to risk on the regulatory side. If users are able to come in and out as actual crypto, AML, KYC wise, it's going to be tough for them. I think that they are more looking at the same as Facebook Libra angle, like have a global cryptocurrency they just understood that it's stupid to issue your own, especially if you don't have the infrastructure for running a proper currency. So I think it's more likely that they're just checking the water, and maybe they will issue one of their own currency. Maybe they will take a strategic partnership with one of the other currencies. Again, it could be. I don't think that as means of payments or as an investment vehicle, it interests them that much. I do think that they definitely want to be up with the game of the payment world, and this is something that you can't ignore any longer. I mean, I don't think you could have ignored it for the past decade, but the fact that Square kind of leaped in made it for them impossible to stay out.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because for Square, I mean, I guess the mainstream world views Square as just a Venmo or Cash a competitor, because they have their Cash App as a competitor of the mobile banking. But for at least me in the crypto world, I mean, I know that Square, in my view, is like not a crypto company, but a very crypto friendly company. They're run by Jack Dorsey, who has historically been very pro crypto. And so like it wasn't shocking in the slightest. When I heard the news, I'm like, oh, they didn't have their money in Bitcoin already. I assumed that like, I don't know, half their savings were in Bitcoin. But I think the more shocking or interesting one for a lot of people was MicroStrategy, and Michael Saylor being the CEO there. That was the first publicly traded company to publicly announce them putting some cash reserves, I think 10% into Bitcoin. And I think since then it has raised, because there was a crazy stat there that like that they made more money just from putting that 10% into Bitcoin over the past month or past 2 months than the entire operating profit, than their entire company profits of their main business over the past 3 years. So I'm sure that got.
How do you manage that with reports?
That's the crazy thing. I mean, one, as an investor in MicroStrategy, if you're a shareholder, you have to be really happy on hearing that news. But on the other hand, it got to put things into perspective of like, what are we doing in this industry if we could be making a whole lot more in that industry? And I think that Michael Saylor, in recent interviews since, has even expressed that he does want to integrate actual Bitcoin products or Bitcoin business models into the actual business because of that. But speaking about the Bitcoin price, because that has really skyrocketed recently. Today, it actually dropped back down. I think it went to 19.5, and now it's at 17 something, I do believe, or maybe 16. I'm not sure. But is this just a natural pull, a correction, a profit taking, and we're going to go back up to that 19-20 range, or is this a market correction and this is where we should have been the whole time?
Evidently, I don't know, but I'm acting as if it's a correction, just a small correction, because I think I saw some stats yesterday that like where are people taking their profits, and whoever has still like a big bag of coins isn't taking profits. So some people, I'm guessing, I think like for Bitcoin, I think there's a mental barrier around the previous all-time high. It's always the case. So I think like around 19 something, a lot of people took out their money, especially more news who got in very high in 2017 and just want to check the market to tell themselves they weren't losing any money. And a lot of traders who expected this psychological barrier. But again, I think I think the sentiment is still very, very strong. For me, the past decade, the fundamentals haven't changed. When it was 19,300, when it was 3,300, it was the same fundamentals. Same goes with ETH, by the way. If you look at the graphs on ETH and BTC, they're identical in a scary way. So I think it's very much a trading strategy of a lot of traders. So I don't think anything changed. I don't think it's going to skyrocket to like 100K per coin this year. I do think it's going to get there, but it's right now it's just a bit.
Mm-hmm. And you did mention last time we spoke a lot about DeFi, but I do think that the situation in DeFi has really changed pretty significantly since we last spoke. I don't know, pretty significantly, but
Ancient
there was
history 3 weeks ago.
exactly. I mean, things happen so quickly in this space, so much innovation. So when we last were speaking, yield farming was all the rage, and people were getting crazy returns, 100% APY, and crazy things. And since then, that has kind of cooled down a bit, and we've seen an increase in flash loans, and with that, there have been a handful of flash loan exploits. And I wanted to get your take on that, because a flash loan exploit isn't necessarily a hack. It's someone who sees the rules that the smart contract has set and said, hey, by playing by these rules, I'll bet not in the way the writer intended, but by playing exactly by these rules, I'm going to be able to make some money here. So what is your take on the flash loan exploits? Is it just lessons to be learned to write better contracts, or is it something more nefarious?
I think it's pretty natural. It's the literal meaning of hacking. It's like using something not the way it was intended. So I'm comfortable calling it hacks. I don't think they're thieves. I think it's, if code is law, they didn't break any law. And whoever so it's, and I think that flash loans is a vital financial tool, because it kind of otherwise, hadn't we had them as an option in the ecosystem, the whales have all the power, which is exactly what we the crypto. One of the reasons that crypto was created is kind of to disconnect that. So it's
you got a little dark there. I guess, see, the second you started talking about the whales, all of a sudden your electricity went out. I'm telling you, man, they're always listening. They have the power. But could you go over into that a little bit more? What you mean? Why do flash loans actually shift the power a little bit from the whales to everyone else?
So if you want to perform something with a huge leverage, and you don't have 100 bitcoins, you can take a flash loan of 100 bitcoins and do that. So, and you can take advantage of glitches in the market, which are otherwise impossible. I mean, it's the same reason that leverage trading exists. It's that you don't have to have it kind of flattens the curve on the opportunity. The opportunities that a whale have are the same opportunities, or similar to the opportunities that you have, with much less resources. And I think it also serves, maybe as a slightly different argument, that it's helping the ecosystem to debug systems, and the fact that a DeFi project is being hacked for 10 million is much better than this project being hacked for $1 billion 3 months later, because that would be devastating. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's part of the ecosystem being so insane, which I'm fine with. I said it before, I like the craziness. I think that in general right now, DeFi is slightly less interesting because the main course is very interesting. So I think it will go back once the volatility in Bitcoin and ETH subsides. I think that DeFi is going to come back with a lot more money, a lot more interest from users who just missed the previous run. I already saw like a big project in Korean, which I was super surprised. There was like the entire DeFi ecosystem was around English the previous one. So I think it's going to be one in Chinese, one in Korean, one in Japanese. I mean, everybody should join the fun.
Right, yeah, for sure. And I mean, hopefully even they shouldn't even have to be segregated by language. But if DeFi protocols just implement and allow just a multitude of languages in their protocol.
It's true, but it's very much, I mean, they're all new projects and they're all running huge marketing efforts, so it's like, I think it's a bit hard to kind of do everything. There are like the main projects are moving well, but I think I understand the difficulty.
Yeah, I mean, it will grow to that, and that's kind of the point. We're still in the alpha and the beta stage, like you mentioned. We're just finding bugs still in the system, so that when we actually launch, to the world later on, it won't crash on day one. And I wonder when that day will come. I mean, I do think a lot of it was, we got a big push by the COVID crisis and by the crazy amount of quantitative easing and money printing that the governments worldwide did. And it seems like with the announcement of vaccines, the global sentiment seems to be that there is a light at the end of the tunnel for the COVID pandemic. It does seem like there's a general consensus that, okay, it might not end tomorrow, but we do see an end to it. So how do you think that there will kind of be a pullback, that this pace will slow in the crypto sphere once the pandemic is actually done and the traditional markets get back to functioning more normally? Or is it, that's it, the cat is out of the bag and this is, we got this big push and there's no stopping us now?
First of all, I think that it's going to be a long while before the pandemic subsides globally. I think it's going to take another year. You know, until vaccines are actually out there, and then first responders and high risk population, and only the rest, you know, will come later, which I'm also fine with. You know, I don't want to, not necessarily I want to be the first one getting the vaccine and turning into a zombie. So kind of clinical trial on mass population. I have no idea if we're going to reach the critical mass like in another year or so. I think it's you know, just like it's been in the past decade. It's like step by step, more people are getting in, more people are understanding the value. I think that we are, even if COVID would have ended tomorrow, like globally, I think still, you know, financial difficulties are at least another year. Some, you know, some industries just like went to the shitter completely, like aviation, hotels, in the entire travel segment is.
Yeah, tourism as well. Yeah, I mean, so let's say let's put a hypothetical scenario. Okay, COVID vaccination comes out, all the first responders turn into zombies. Now, crypto and Bitcoin has traditionally been a hedge against hyperinflation and bad fiscal policies by the government. But if there's a zombie apocalypse, I do imagine that the internet will take kind of a hit. And that's the thing, that Bitcoin really is beholden to this idea of an internet connected world. And if the internet goes down, or let's say not even a zombie apocalypse, let's say there's a global let's say there's a global war. You know, in all honesty, in World War III, I have to imagine that the connections between the continents, which is the underground cables that connect the internet, the global internet, I had to mention those will be attacked, those will be taken down, and then it's all in the hands of Elon Musk and his internet satellites. So I mean,
you don't need. I mean, you don't need a lot of bandwidth, you know, to actually complete a transaction. Right now, most of the, you know, you just need a lot of resources to close the block. But other than that, I mean, everything, I mean, the protocols are built that way that it can survive on very low resources. But again, I don't think we're going for a zombie apocalypse.
You heard it here first, people.
I'm optimistic, so, you know, but, you know, buy a gun if you think you are. I think bullets will be the new currency if that happens. But but I do think that, you know, financial difficulties are going to be around for a while, and I think that crypto can shine, especially as, you know, as we've mentioned, the lending ecosystem, the ability for the few who understand the risk and the reward to get, you know, 10% APR. Today, you know, it makes sense to go and take all the relief you can and all the funding you can for zero and put it in, you know, 10% yield. Banks, you know, Rothschild families are created this way. So, you know, something, or Medici, I don't know if you prefer something more.
One day I want the Hochhauser name to be spoken of as a secret conspiratorial family that secretly controls the banking behind the scenes. I'm gonna start off by taking some traditional loans and putting it into DeFi. But kind of speaking of that, you know, and speaking of the growing pains and the learning that this new ecosystem is going through, because of those flash loan exploits, this actually got to turn a little bit of spotlight on on a part of DeFi that hasn't really gotten, its day yet, which is the DeFi insurance market, because some of these smart contracts, like the Pickle hack, was or had decentralized insurance put against it. So I think that this is actually kind of good. It gives it some test runs to actually run in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I do think as the market, what do you say?
Yeah, grow and mature the ecosystem. Yeah, absolutely. Evolution.
Yeah, and so I also want to pick your brain a little bit, because it kind of been overshadowed a little bit by the price run recently. But something that the cryptosphere has been waiting for a long time, kind of this milestone, has been the launch of ETH 2.0 and the move to staking, proof of stake. And we finally got the launch of the staking deposit contract. And I think it's supposed to go actually live soon. We just reached the amount of depositors and stakers. But I wonder, as a crypto holder, how smart really is it to stake your ETH right now in that contract? Because the estimates are showing that it's going to take at least a couple of years, and a year and a half to 2 years, until you could actually touch or move that stake. And so in this environment we have right now, where there are so many, you could be making a much better returns, either much higher returns on higher risk, or even pretty stable returns on lower risk, but that still enables you to keep it relatively liquid. Is there any reason besides, hey, I believe in Ethereum, so I want to help it out by staking? Is there any reason why the average person should be staking their ETH at this point into that contract?
No.
Good answer. Good answer. I agree with you, by the way. I agree with you, and I do think that the vast majority of that stake was by just the power players that already are invested in Ethereum, the Vitaliks and even the funds and exchanges. I think that it was mostly them. But I'm happy. I'm happy that good. You have the extra ETH line around. Go lock it up in there, and so the whales are even a little at least the ETH whales a little handcuffed a little bit until that launch.
That's great, because that's limiting the supply. So
Yeah, it's the beauty. It's the beauty. I wish that they stake all their crypto, and hopefully, hopefully leave some for us. But that's the thing right now is it's still uncertain. Obviously we're so new, and the whole future is uncertain in this space. But if you would have asked the looking back 5 years or go back to 2017, you're talking about looking at the landscape, and you'd say, okay, Ethereum has a pretty solid lead here in terms of a smart contract blockchain, and then some Tron and EOS and other things came up, but then with the rise of DeFi, it became pretty clear that Ethereum was the go-to blockchain for smart contracts. And then as DeFi became more successful and Ethereum couldn't scale, a lot of buzz came around competitors like Polkadot and Cosmos and other competitors to the smart contract world. So when we're looking at the future now, because not right now, today, obviously the system, the balance is pretty much set, but when you're looking forwards 5 years from now, or 3 years from now, 4 years from now, a little bit longer term or midterm, do you think that how do you view it? Will it still be ETH 1.0 that will hold all the assets, and it'll just be other more scalable, cross-chain operability that will be interacting with it? Do you think another competitor will actually surpass ETH and they'll actually hold the value on their blockchain? Or do you think ETH 2.0 will be successful and they'll actually move over the assets to ETH 2.0? And the reason I really do think ETH 2.0, I really have not much hope in ETH 2.0, because I really do think that Ethereum is a product of their own success. That because they have so much assets on them, they're so scared of innovating. They're so scared, and obviously it makes sense. They don't want to lose all this value. They don't want a bug to collapse the whole thing. So how do you see at least the smart contract in essentially the DeFi world? How do you see that taking place in a couple of years going forward?
I think that large applications tend to not change anything. Even if you look at the PayPal interface. It looks like it was designed in the 90s because it was designed in the 90s, and if they change anything, all the users are going to hate it and move to something else. So again, it's really impossible to predict. I mean, like 5 years ago, who would have thought that Ethereum is going to be so strong?
Mhm.
Definitely, I didn't. I sold like shit ton of it for like under $1. But so, and now again, it's super difficult. Like if there is a new blockchain that is able to drag or create a lot of adoption, whether just by creating a mechanism for safety and yield just by holding the currency itself, or just holding the currency is just like, I think there are a few doing that, like big algorithms maybe. Like the fact that you're holding it is already staking it, so you're getting more of that coin into your to your address. So if it's becoming competitive to Ethereum, it could create a lot of buzz. It could take a lot of the attention to that blockchain and bring more users there. And if it's a genuinely better product for creating DeFi applications, then it might have a break. But I have no idea. I'm just spreading my personal bets on multiple places. Just enabling more black swans, I guess.
Yeah, and with this innovation and with this growth, we also hear sometimes negative news. We hear some news that makes you think, what the hell were they thinking? How are they still so far behind the curve? And I'm talking about stories like OKX exchange, where one executive at the exchange is taken into custody as part of an investigation. Obviously, when we're talking about that part of the world, it's hard to know how much of the full story we're getting. But this idea that one guy is taken into custody and the whole exchange has to lock withdrawals because they don't have the necessary access to the hot wallets. And that seems like, for a major exchange like OKX, we should already be so far beyond that point. Like exchange like Quadriga CX, which is run by a guy and his wife, I get it. He dies or he fakes his death and he has the access, fine. I don't expect any better. But on an exchange like OKX, which is massive and it has transacts so much value, I mean, you would expect them to be using much better practices. So is this indicative? Is that situation indicative of the crypto market overall? As in, are a lot of these exchanges a lot more vulnerable than we expect, or are they an exception to the rule, and they really should know better?
I don't think so. I mean, think of the regular financial system. I mean, it's like everything is fucked up. Think of watch like Dirty Money on Netflix, but HSBC, the global incorporating conglomerate, had they laundered like $10 billion. Bottom line is they got fined by like 2.5 and nobody went to prison. But still, I mean, the largest have, there's always the human factor. There's always there are always probably, it's impossible to have a 100% functional system, especially when it's centralized. With decentralized, comes other issues. But again, no system is perfect. You can't assume that just because an organization is very large and transacts a lot of value, it's going to be 100% safe, 100% true, 100% immune against that. I think you've seen that with all the large banks, they're paying fines like through the roof. So it's size in this case, size doesn't matter really.
Yeah. Right, and this just backs up the idea of not your keys, not your crypto. The importance of of having that option of, if you want to hold it, you hold it. If you're not sure, it's great that if you're a newbie, you don't know, you're scared. They have the option. Great, have the option to have someone else take care of it. But it is really highlights the importance. If you know what you're doing, if you understand it, you really should be holding your own keys. And so I wonder if I was someone who had a cold storage, and I'm holding all my crypto myself, and I want to sell it. I want to put something into my bank account in fiat so I can pay my bills or whatever. With Simplex now allowing this debit card and IBAN numbers in your own bank account, am I able to get that crypto directly from my own wallet, my own cold wallet to this bank account.
Yeah.
How is that done?
When you sell, you're just given a destination address and you just send the crypto there. You can do it with BTC, ETH, USDT, and TRX right now.
Wow. And so that bank account essentially has a public crypto address that's tied to it?
Not exactly. We're providing a different address for every transaction, but yes.
Okay. So you give me the transaction, I send it to that wallet, and then that goes into my bank account.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. And so this is a perfect solution for those who want to totally disconnect themselves from these centralized exchanges. Does this also work the other way? As in, let's say I'm working for a traditional company that has a traditional bank account and I want to be paid in crypto. Are they able to do the same thing in the opposite direction?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take down your details. I want to start doing this.
Do it. It's really funny. It was the first time I ever sold crypto as well. I opened my bank account and I just seconds later you have euros in the bank account. It's crazy. Considering the fact that it's usually so difficult, again, unless if you're working with Coinbase or something in the US, but for the other billions of people around there, it's usually very difficult. And here it's super simple, super fast. Great rates, really something I'm very proud that we've managed to provide.
And what kind of KYC does a user have to provide? Obviously, the reason why these rails are so tough is to prevent, money laundering and nefarious activities. What are the steps? What do I have to provide to Simplex in order to participate?
Basically, you're opening a bank account, so all the information we need when you're opening a bank account. So KYC. Answer a couple of questions like what are you using the bank account for? If you're European, it's immediate and done online completely. If you're outside of Europe, then it usually takes another another couple of emails or another form that you need to fill or something like that, and then it's being opened.
And are there fees for actually just holding the account, or are the fees only when you're putting in and taking out?
Only when you're putting in and taking out, and very, very low fees. The debit card itself is zero fee. So you can use it wherever you want, whenever you want. Basically, it's supposed to be the perfect scenario I can think of is putting money in, converting to crypto, using one of we're working right now on a few partnerships with the lending segment that you'll be able to push money into push fiat into the account. Say I want to lend it, I want to receive my weekly APR in fiat in the account and just spend it with a debit card. I think it's everyone's dream. Just live off the interest of your principal without touching the principal.
Nimrod Lehavi, making dreams come true. I think that should be your own personal tagline, because listen, that is such a great solution, especially for the headache that a lot of us have to face when it comes to this crypto fiat crypto space. And then, so when we're talking about the bank account, where is that bank account actually sitting? What bank is it actually connected to?
There are a few European bank accounts that we have partnerships with.
And do we get to choose which bank, or you guys decide where it goes?
It's basically we're just distributing between them just to even it out, but there's no real difference. I mean, all of them are the equivalent of FDIC insured in Europe.
Okay, and what is that amount insured up to?
I think it's exactly like FDIC. I just don't remember the numbers.
Okay, pretty good. I think at this point FDIC is $250,000, but that was the last time I was in America, so that might be
No, I think you're right. I don't think that users are going to use these bank accounts to hold a lot of money. Again, it's insured, but I don't think that that's going to be the usage. I think that the fact that it's becoming almost frictionless to go fiat to crypto to fiat, with that is going to allow users to do mostly that. That's why, again, we don't take money on money sitting in the bank there, because I don't expect users to leave money there in the bank.
And if that account, and I want to use that debit card, you mentioned no fees. Can I use that debit card no fees internationally? I do not live in Europe. I want to have that account. I can take the debit card and spend it in Australia and still not be facing any of those fees?
Yep.
All right, sign me up. As soon as this interview is over, I'm gonna log out. What is that? Simplex.com or simplex.io?
No, .com. We have the
You even make
.com.
it easy. So many crypto projects do the .o. You have to guess. You have to know. You even making the address simple.
The .com is still the biggest asset you can get. You know, it's really. I agree with you. It's very difficult. It's sometimes like hard to understand if someone is trying to, you know, fish you on a different domain. Like someone the other day, someone on LinkedIn like did. It was an interesting attack vector on one of the exchanges, which has an I, but it wasn't like an I with a dot, but with an I with a like apostrophe.
Yeah, yeah. That's what you got to be careful. I always say, not your keys, not your crypto, and think before you click that link. You definitely want to make sure because there's some funky characters.
Just don't click any link. That's all.
Be
paranoid.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate that. Well, Nimrod, I'm very excited. I want to wrap up this interview so I can open up my Simplex account. So I'm sorry. I'm going to cut it short. I'm kicking you out. Nimrod Lehavi, thank you so much for explaining how things work and actually doing the hard work to make our lives so much easier and more frictionless. So I do appreciate you taking the time. I'm excited to hear what announcements you have next time we speak, because it seems like every time we talk, you have a new way of just making our lives easier. So Nimrod, the man who makes dreams come true, thank you so much. And for all of our viewers here at Reimagine 2020, I'm Yonah Hochhauser. Happy holidays.